Hi everybody, I'm John Seeley, Managing Broker with JK Realty here in Gilbert, Arizona. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about the buyer pre-closing walkthrough. Pretty straightforward form, 3 boxes. Box 1 is if everything is fine, we sign it, we move along. That's what happens almost always. Box number 2 is we saw the property and there were problems. Either things that the seller had agreed to fix aren't fixed, or there's a new problem that wasn't there when we signed the contract. If we check that box and get our clients to sign it, that becomes a cure period notice in and of itself, gets them 3 days to make the cure. Box 3 waives the final walkthrough of the premises by the buyer. I really encourage agents to not use this box. You really do need to get your clients to sign these and do either box 1 that everything is fine, or box 2 that there's problems that need fixed. But waiving the walkthrough is probably not the best risk management for your business. Is the buyer required to do a walkthrough is a question I get quite a lot. And no, they're not. There's no requirement in the contract for the buyer to do a walkthrough. There is a requirement in the contract for the seller to make it available for a walkthrough and to make sure that the utility's on for that walkthrough. So no, they don't have to. Should they? Absolutely they should. And if they can't do it and they ask you to do it, I would suggest you not do it. If they ask you to do it or say they can't do it, tell them there are third-party people out there that'll do it for them. They could certainly get a family member to go do it for them. They could call the inspector that did an inspection for them, and pay them a small fee to go do it. You'd want in writing that they were going to allow this third party to do it, and you would still want the buyer themselves to sign box 1 of this document. Okay. When should we do the walkthrough? That's another question I get a lot. I suggest you do it 3 days ahead of COE. If you don't do it 3 days ahead of COE, your chances of extending COE are pretty good, because this becomes a cure period notice. If we do it on the day of close of escrow and we find a problem, we're at least 3 days later now before we can close. So that's sort of the rule of thumb I use for our agents and our clients, is that we really want you to do this 3 days before. And I understand that there's a lot going on 3 days before, but this is just one of those things. And you tell your clients at the beginning there's this flurry of stuff, and at the end there's this flurry of stuff. So they'll be pretty understanding, I would think. If the seller refuses to make some repairs that you found a problem here, you're going to have to probably have your client make a decision on, is it big enough to not buy the house? They could go ahead and there's all kinds of legal remedies they could take. Your first step, if everybody absolutely refuses to fix it and the client refuses to buy the home without it fixed, is have them contact an attorney just to make sure that they know what all of their options are legally speaking. Okay. If the seller does fix everything that we find on this, and this is what happens almost always if you find something, the sellers fix it. It's usually something like a mover put a hole in a wall, or something got moved that wasn't supposed to be moved, some things like that. It's usually pretty straightforward, simple stuff. If they fix it, take your client back out to the property, go through it again with them, and have them check box 1 and sign it and send that over to the listing agent, and everything will be good. So that's the long and the short of this form. There's a lot more we could talk about. If you'd like to talk about it, give me a call. My cell 602-400-4376. I'd be glad to talk with you. And thanks for your time.